Now I just wanted to do a little brief up, okay, with a setup. And then I wanted to show you some of the pictures of my students who have set up. Like this is a place in which I have set up, and maybe when you're going to set it up, you could maybe have doubts on how to do them, right? So I'm going to show some of that, and okay, and then I'm going to tell you the do's and don'ts. Okay, so I'm just going to again share the screen. Okay, and so that is the window. Now I just read a couple of questions there which said you have trees surrounding around. That is fine, but you just need to figure out one window from where the light source is going to come through. If it is lesser light or more light, doesn't matter, but you just need a window where you can set your table up like you're seeing now, and then you need to have a back support. But then that back support, like you see here, should be in alignment with the edge, okay, edge of the window, like this back cupboard that you see, that the vertical board that is placed, it's like a cupboard basically. You can't be placing that literally towards the wall or something. It has to be aligned with the edge or the door hinge part of the window, and then a table put up. Okay, and then this you've seen the back BG, the bottom BG, the reflector, and then the horizon is very important. Okay, now material suitable for the BGs will be mica coated plywood like I have used. There is also the board called foam core boards, which is very thin and a very compressed thermocol kind of a sheet. It is not thermocol, but it is a different material which is light weighted. And wooden plank also you can do, but with the mica coat, then you have it white in color. If you have wooden plank, then you need to paint it, spray paint it with white to start with, because white is one essential BG. Okay, so this is the back BG that is placed here. And then you see from the grill window, the grill from the window, you have the sharp light coming in because of the sun. Maybe that sun is not directly falling through that window. In fact, there is another house on the other side, so it is not the direct sun. So in case you're having trees, so that that white color thing you see outside the windows grill here is another house, the neighbor's house, is that what you see. So obviously the direct sun is not even showing through this, but still you can see the sharp shadow through the grill here. Okay, now the bottom BG is placed. Now what you saw in the video, that was a bigger one. When this is an earlier setup that I had done, but I just wanted to show that to you now as well. But then having a bigger bottom BG is quite good, so you have enough space. And now diffusing, so if you have a translucent window like the one that I'm showing now, if you close that, you can see the sharp shadow is just going away. Now if you do not have a translucent window like that, then what you need to do is have a white cloth, a transparent white cloth like a screen. Okay, now the reflector is placed, and then you have the cake also placed, like the tiered cake is placed here now. And then you see the horizon being very straight is important. Having a horizon in the picture gives a very professional look to the photos that you take, rather than having the BG flowing from the back BG to the bottom BG. Having the horizon neatly placed in the picture is really good. And obviously a reflector is important. Now, here are the pictures. I just want you to take a closer look at the pictures here set up by the students looking for windows. You can also see there is the left bottom picture where there is a red sofa, and then there is a teapot kind of a table there where the light falls in, right? But then that is not exactly near the window, but still that wall looks very bright and lit, right? So you can set up the table there as well, as long as you know that there is that window and that window's light falls on the table. And then once you place a reflector, you're just going to have a good amount of light. Now, if you do not, so this is one place where it is not, it is a window, but then it could be like a French window, balconies opening as well. And it doesn't have to be like that big table that I have set up with that the initial stuffs where people don't even have to invest on the boards and all that. When people initially start without having to spend on the boards, then it is like a plain cloth And then the reflector is any white material. Here you can see the cake board, I mean cake box is being used. Now this is another example. Okay. But then the window's edge is not the edge of that wall on the, that end, right? If you have to set it up here, you need to move this table towards the window and have a back support that is following that edge of that window line and not on the wall. Now you cannot set this table towards that corner, where that corner is not where the window is placed, and then there you have difficulty because light will not fall on the cake. Now for people who think that, you don't have a window space, then there were times when people were asked to set it up in the balcony. Now, like I said, in balcony, if at all the light is falling on from one side, then you create the drama. But it is not as great as it would be inside the house, very next to the window. So here for people who are waiting to know what you can do when you don't have a window with proper light, then yes, set it up in the balcony. Okay. What I do. Okay, so this is like, some of the setups that you could do in your home with the available, setup that you have. Okay, so this is one setup that I liked with whatever you could do from your home. That is an iron thing, a stand on which you iron your clothes. So that is that thing. It's a table itself, and it is very next to the door. I mean, you for searching on windows. So this is a door, like a light has to pass through from the outside. That is what we are looking at. And for a reflector to be held, the ones that I use now is a clip that will hold. And if you're not able to purchase a clip like that initially, then what you can do is to have some heavy box or, something that can just hold the weight of the reflector so it doesn't fall back. Okay. And here the BG itself is like a nice netted white net cloth. It's not even jute, but then it looks really lovely. This pictures taken by one of the student in the previous batch, and then the photos come out really good in this setup, because what you all need is a light falling on the cake from one side, left or the right, and then you have a reflector, and then you have a BG, and that BG could be anything. You can invest in proper printed BGs or a cloth. But a cloth, if it is like a regular cloth from your home, you have to make sure that it doesn't have too much folds and then wrinkles and all that. Okay, so now you can see it is as close taken to the window here. Now when the photo was taken, which is like a little far away from the window, then the lighting is a little less. Now here you see that the entire setup is moved as close to the light source as possible. Then you have more light on the source. Okay, so now these are the key points that we have learned. You have to stand right in front of your cake, and you need to hold the camera right opposite to the cake, and you have three important angles: the eye level, bird eye, dead top, and then additional stylized close-up shots. Now with or without reflector, I think one of you had the doubt for you to know. Now when the reflector is not there, you see the image on the left side where you have the shadow sharp falling on one side. You don't want to see the shadow of the cake. But why we need to have the light source on one side but still want to avoid the the shadow? Because see the one on the right side, the image, the cake is brighter with light falling on it on the right side, but on the left side you see the darker side of the cake. One side has to be a bit dark, which is not too bright. Like you don't want the light to be falling on the front of the cake, making everything too bright. The right side is brighter, the left side is a bit darker, but the shadow is avoided. Now to avoid the shadow is why we need to use the reflector. Now, these are some of the examples of the tiered cakes where the eye level is very important. If when you're taking the tiered cakes, you need to step back, and then the leftmost you see there is horizon, and in the middle one and the right one there is no horizon, because I have used the BG. I like all the three pictures, but how it is taken, because eye level is so important. The middle one, the copper color cake with a David Aston flower thing. The cake stand is candle stand. So you need to explore options for your cake stand as well. Okay, so this is the bird eye. In the bird eye, you can just check the importance, the visibility of both the top and the bottom being equal is on the leftmost picture. The middle picture, you can see on the sides, I don't have much to show. So I've taken the angle a little upward. So I'm focusing on something on the top. So the visibility of the top of the cake is more. And now on the rightmost picture, I want to have the top also have some elements, and then the side also have some elements. Now the visibility on the sides is a little more than the top, but then all three are eye level pictures. I mean, all three are bird eye angle pictures, but the visibility of the importance given to the sides and the top depends on what I want to show. Now, if I have something on the sides also to be shown, then I will give equal importance. But then obviously the sides and the top should be there in the frame, and that you'll be able to see what is that on the sides of the cake you want to show in your photo. Now the dead top pictures, they are tarts, but basically the leftmost one, if you're going to do a layered cake and then take a picture of it, then you could do a composition like on the leftmost picture here, and then that is the dead top. Okay, and then the middle one is also a dead top, but a little tilt is there, and that is a cheesecake. I think it is the cheesecake. So the rightmost is a brownie cupcake. It's a very simple dead top, but then still it gives you a lot of impact because of the clarity of the image and then the equal placement of the image of the, the elements in the frame. Now here are the stylized shots. Like I said, you take only one side of it and then you can do a bird eye, and then you get close up and then show some of the elements that you want to show it in close up. And these are also pictures that you just take whenever you are making a cake. Close-up shots are also very important. Okay, now here I'm just trying to show a picture with the horizon and without the horizon of the same cake. Now with the horizon here, there is this BG itself that I had got, but they are complementing colors. Now if you're wanting to have the horizon, but you're still choosing to use the backdrops that you buy outside, when you can't be having a red background to a green background, combining them, like the red for the back and the green for the bottom doesn't suit the cake at all. Now you need to choose the color of the BG appropriately. However, if you are going to use the backdrops to have the horizon, then you need two backdrops for the back and then the bottom, right? But then when you're doing that, you need to make sure both the BGs are complementing in colors with each other, and they shouldn't be contrast. Like too much of contrast is not good for the back and the bottom. They have to be neighboring colors. Like that is a light gray at the back on the left picture, and then there is a dark gray at the bottom BG, and then the horizon is formed, and then that picture looks good. However, the one on the right, which is the simple way of taking pictures, where you don't even show the horizon, but then you have the BG flowing. However, both are the eye level pictures. Now here again, the usage of the BG with stripes is what is shown here. Now also different colors of using the BGs for the cakes. Now the right side one, where you can see both are wooden based, right? But then there is a BG at the bottom, which I do not want to make it flow to the bottom BG, because ideally it is not natural for a wood BG to be flowing between the back and the bottom BG. So the bottom is a separate, it is a texture, it's a mica sheet on the bottom BG for the right side image I'm talking about. And then the back is a BG. So, but then the stripes have to be straight, and this image itself, it is a little slanted. You can see on the topmost line is slanted, but then when you are placing it and sticking it, you have to ensure the wooden plank kind of BG that if you're using, they have to be straight, and then it has to have a meaning that it is actually the wood and not a easy paper that you can just allow it to flow or fold. Now here are the dead top pictures of the deserts. It's the same desert. When you have one desert that you want to take picture with, just use multiple shots where you can just try out placing the props in different ways, and then you can just cut also and then take picture if you're just making something just for your own profile. If it is not for the client, then obviously you can cut and take pictures. If you're sending out for the client, obviously you can't cut and take pictures, but you can take the pictures which is on the left and the rightmost side. And this is another shot using DSLR where the focus is shifted from one object. So you can see it is the same setup on the picture in the middle and then the picture on the right side. The picture in the middle, the brownie bite on the front is in focus, and then the rightmost one, the brownie bite in the middle is in focus, and then you can go close. But then these depth of field is there in most of the recent upgraded versions of the mobile cameras as well. You still have these options to take pictures like this, but this one was taken using the DSLR. Okay, and again some of the desert shots, cut shots, like you can see where the depth of focus is, and the bird eye angle. The middle bottom one is the bird eye angle of the desert, and the rightmost is dead top, but a little bit of the sides is also shown. Again, close-up of desert shots that you can take. When you're taking deserts, obviously depth of field is very important to make it look really good. So you can use mobile cameras where you can play around with depth of field, and that is when you have to place objects at the back, making it look blurry, and then you have whatever you want to show to be in good focus. Okay, so now let's move on to talking about common mistakes that you need to avoid. Here I just want you to focus on, and this is a very important lesson, more than knowing what you have to do, you need to understand what you should not do. So you need to avoid them and make sure that what you do is right, and then you should just completely avoid what you should not do. Okay, so the topmost left, the mistake that is there. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you guys to write down in the chat window the left topmost. What is the mistake that you see there? There are two mistakes that you can just point out from there. So Anita says horizon is not straight, correct? That is one thing. Then the tilted horizon, right? And there is also another mistake. Angle is also not straight. The cake is itself crooked. The cake is slanted. That is the first and the foremost mistake there. And then the horizon is also slanted. That is also another important mistake there. Okay. So we move to the top middle one. The top middle one, the cake is straight now. Okay. So now you can see the mistake that is there in the top left and the top middle. So the top left, the cake itself is slanted. The horizon is also slanted. Now in the top middle one, the cake is straight somehow, right? But then the horizon is slanted. Top middle, the horizon is slanted. Okay. Now the top rightmost one, what do you see? Reflector is not used. Okay. And then the diffuser, we call it diffuser for the top rightmost. There is sharp shadow coming from the grill of the window, which means a translucent window, the door of the window haven't closed, or I should have used a screen, thin white transparent cloth I should have used. I did not. And then look at the sharp shadow of that. So this one I'm talking about. Okay, so yeah, diffuser is missing, and then I have missed out on the reflector as well. Okay, so now let's move to the bottom left. Okay, I want you guys to tell me what is the issue with this image. this leftmost one, what could be the issue with that? Okay, see, the eye level is not done well. Okay, and yeah, not at eye level, but it is supposed to be an eye level picture. But then spacing below the cake is too much than the space that is needed above the cake. So that is very important. The space below the cake is not needed at all. Okay, you can have like an inch of space below the cake when you're taking the picture, but above the cake is where that empty space that is very important above the cake when you're taking eye level picture. The left and the right spacing is fine, so the angle is quite missing here, and then space below the cake is like too much, which has to be avoided. And now also when you see, when you give that spacing below the cake so much, the horizon goes to the top, the middle of the the frame, that you have to avoid. Okay, so now let's move on to this middle picture. What I'm showing, what could be the mistake? Like everything is wrong here. Too close, correct? It's too close, and you need the space on the top of the cake as well, right? And now you can see the horizon is all come to the bottom 1/4, right? But then on the top of the cake, if there is no space, then obviously you are getting too close like that, and that you need to avoid. So step back when you do not have enough space for your cake, and then that extra space you're not able to get, then you need to step back and take picture. Now this one on the right side, there's one mistake that you can find. I mean, maybe more than one, but then one prominent mistake that you can see. Can you find out? Very, very prominent, common mistake. The reflector is seen. Okay, so the reflector, you need to get it as close to the cake as possible, right? But then sometimes what happens, the reflector itself comes in the frame, and then people don't figure out, oh my God, the reflector is there. Reflector should not be seen. You don't have to tell in your picture, your cake picture, that there is reflector and that is too close. Also, now here when the cake is placed right, it is like too forward. Your cake has to be as close as possible towards the back BG. Now in this one, the rightmost one that you're seeing in the screen, that cake moving towards you, then you will not have enough of space on the sides for you to take, and that you need to avoid. Push the cake as close as possible to the BG, which means this one on the top, right? This one on the top right, you can see the position of that cake moved as close as possible to the back BG is the right position. Moving it towards you, which is the one here on the right side, is not the right way of placing your cake to take eye level especially. Okay, so I'm just going to put all these mistakes together in one frame for you to check the mistakes that you need to avoid. All of it. Okay, maybe when you're just going back to this lesson after it's uploaded, you can just take a look and then verify if your pictures have any of these mistakes and that you need to avoid them. Okay, now BGs that I don't recommend generally, the leftmost one, like I said, the wooden plank BGs, but then they are allowed to flow from the back BG to the bottom BG, where naturally the wooden plank cannot bend or fold like that, and taking a picture of your cake placed over a striped BG that flows from the back to the bottom is not ideal at all, so you will avoid that. Okay, and then the right side one, this rosettes, ganache rosette one, you need to avoid generally, because when you have the BGs that has this dual thing, in that one BG itself, they are setting up that there is a back BG and then there is a bottom BG. But then if you have to set it up in your home, you have to be very careful that the horizon line is completely horizontal and straight, and then it literally is very natural. But then when beginners use that, they don't pay attention to keeping that horizon line kind of straight. and then you have trouble, and then it looks like really very artificial. So the BGs that I recommend, do not recommend to buy, are things like this, which is striped. If you're using stripe, make sure you're using it only to the bottom or using only to the back, and do not allow them to flow between the back and the bottom. And then dual 2-in-1 kind of BGs, if you're not able to make them, make the horizon stay in a straight line, and then you have trouble making it look very natural. Okay, so editing. So this one is done using Snapseed. What I had shown there on the video is Canva. Now Canva was not there when I was making this PPT. But then I felt this was very useful, so I wanted to share it with you. But then one important point I didn't mention in the video, which is straightening the image. Now, when you are taking a picture, now you just find out that the bottom below the cake also you got excess space, but then you couldn't avoid that excess space that comes below the cake that you're taking the picture. But then so you can use the crop option to crop off that excess space. Okay, but then to find out whether your cake is looking tilted, there is the straighten option, and this you can find it sometime in your gallery itself, or then you can find it in some of the editing apps also. So when you are using it to straighten, then you find these grid lines you can see in the middle picture of the cake where it is slanted. Now, first of all, you need to understand and realize that it is slanted. Now, how do you do that? Now, in the middle picture, you can see the grid line on the leftmost gray bottom tiers, leftmost part. You can see the grid line and the cake. That one line alone, you can just focus. And then the rightmost part of the cake, the bottom gray tier, and then that one grid line very next to it, you can see that the cake's sides are not straight, right? Now, when you put these grid lines and then check, you will first of all find out that the cake is not straight in the picture. Now, the rightmost, so I have used the straighten option here. You can see the middle one, which is the left one that you see in the screen. The 0 degrees is there, right? And then the right image, you can see it is minus 1.8 degrees is what I have used to straighten that image. Now you can see after it has been straightened, you can see the bottom tiers, right side, bottom tier gray, that line is straight to the cake. And then the left side also. Now compare this grid line alone between the one that you see here, the left image and the right image. With that little straightening option, you make your cake that looks slanting in the photo that you took, you're making it straight. Now, when you're doing that, you can't do that. Like if the cake itself is slanted, that you cannot adjust in the editing. Now the cake was straight, and then by all means in the picture it looks slanted, then the straightening option is going to help. However, when you're doing that, the horizon by all means is also going to get crooked. So you can't be doing that like a completely tilted cake. You will not be able to use this, but a minimal level of straightening you can do. But when you're doing that, make sure the horizon is also quite straight. So first, check the image, check your cake. If the horizon is slanted or if your cake is slanted, you can do a bit of straightening to just get your cake straight up. Okay, so this is the image that I just wanted to compare and show to you, the slanted and the straight image before editing and after editing. We just have a closer look of quickly having a look through the picture on the left and the right. Keep looking like 3-4 times, so you can just figure out that the left is a little slanted. First of all, we need to understand that it is slanted, and only then we'll be able to straighten it using that option. So that is the image before and after edit of just the straightening option. Okay, and now here it is the same. So editing in a Snapseed, from left the one picture, and then you're going to the tools, and then you're finding the tune image, and then you're finding the brightness, and then you are increasing. What did I increase on the rightmost image? You can see brightness, contrast, saturation, and highlights. So basically I try to touch upon those. In the Canva also I've been doing that, but then recently I just figured blurring, don't use it all the time, but where you really want to show textures, and that is when you just go on with the blur image, blur option that I'm using to edit on the Canva these days. Now here is editing of this particular cake, before edit and after edit. And now that if you're taking like in the editing that I had shown in the video also, because the cake itself was well lit, the editing before and after, it's not much of a difference, but ideally touch upon your cake in editing before you are posting it anywhere. Don't have it too bleachy, but make sure if it is like too dark and too dull, then those are the areas that you will just work upon editing. Okay, so in this before editing, the cake itself is like tilted. So first I've straightened it, and then I have just added the brightness, contrast, and all that, and then you have the image on the right. Okay, so that is the end, and this also will be available for you. Okay, so that is what I wanted to show you guys. Hope you had a good insight on the photography.